afternoon. It's once again 5:30 in the p.m. on a Friday. And of course, this is your host for the next 25 minutes of Hotline 21, most interactive television show in America, in the most important, the most delightful, and the greatest city, not only in Chicago, but anywhere in the United States of America. And I happen to be fortunate because I have the opportunity to represent a piece of geography known as the 7th Congressional District in the state of Illinois. And I have many of the greatest constituents that one could ever hope to represent. People who are enlightened, engaged, who are actively involved. I often say that the best safeguard that we have for democracy is an enlightened citizenry that is involved. I sat next to a lady on the airplane yesterday, and she was reading the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. And I mean, she was really engrossed in that book, and I say it's a book that I gotta get, and it's a book that I gotta read, and first chance I get, I'm going to go somewhere and pick up a copy of that book, because I got a friend I want to give it to. Well, it's been busy in Washington. Every week is busy when we're there because the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives continues to turn out important bills and important legislation. I must confess, though, that this week we got the president's new budget. And there have been lots of discussions already about the budget. And the president is proposing a number of things in his budget. That's his budget. That's what he's saying to Congress. Here is what I want you all to agree to and with. Well, there are so many things in the budget that I cannot agree to. The president's budget proposes a $1.5 trillion in cuts to Medicaid over 10 years. Implementing work requirements as well as eliminating the Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. Can you imagine what taking $1.5 trillion out of Medicaid would do to many of our hospitals, many of our health centers, to Cook County Hospital, to Miles Square Health Center, to Near North Health Center, to North Lawndale Health Center, to Christian Health Center, $1.5 trillion in Medicaid. It would mean that many of the relatives that you have in nursing homes would have to end up in your home. But let's go to the phone and get our first caller and see what he has to say. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing, Connie Davis?
James, I'm good. How are you?
Okay. I'm gonna make two comments. Like you right about the health care, Whoopi Goldberg and that out of Tibet. They very sick though. But I think Whoopi Goldberg, and I think she was talking about out of Tibet. The guy played on that game show.
I'm not sure I know which one because I must confess I don't get a chance to watch much television for pleasure.
Again, my second comment is about God is making everything coming out about what happened to that those people in that other country. It's still gonna come out with the help of God. Keep on believing in God, Curry Davis, and He will show you what's right.
Well, I am so glad that I, like you, believe
Uh,
in God. I really do. And I am not ashamed of my belief in God the Almighty. I am not ashamed of my belief in the gospel. And I do believe that God has smiled on me.
y'all have a good weekend, Curry Davis.
Okay, you too. Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank James because, you get me wound up about God and all that kind of stuff. But God has smiled on us. And I want to thank God. My wife just came home from the hospital this morning. Well, this afternoon, quite frankly. And she had surgery. Other than being sore, and her blood pressure was a bit elevated. The doctor says she's doing all right, and so I believe that she's going to be all right, and I want to thank God for that. We'll go and take our next caller. Caller, are you there?
Good evening, Dr. Davis, U.S. Representative 7th District. I'm going to make a comment, and you may be right, surprised of it. We hear about this college scandal, and they talk about these rich people getting their children into these prestigious universities. Now, if you want your son or daughter to get into one of those prestigious universities, okay, you pay to have a building or a wing built, so many other students can take advantage of in terms of those resources as well. Now, those sort of things been going on for ages and all that, and maybe there's some things the government should stay out of it. That's one of. Now they're going to get into about parents paying millions of dollars out to a university to accept their son and daughter. Now, why don't they get on our current president's case of all the certain things he's doing, how he's throwing over a lot of people in this country? I know I cover a wide territory, but like I said, there's certain things the government should stay out of it. And I feel as though the college scandal should be one of them.
Well, I think that there are people who contribute to charitable causes, but those contributions don't guarantee that a child would be accepted. Universities have criteria in terms of what they say you have to be. And so I think there are wealthy people, but they don't want to build a new building. They give what they give, but they don't all say that I'm in a position and I still want my child to go, and that's so unfortunate. Because if you don't go to one university, go to another one. I remember my mother telling us, be what you can be, do what you can do, but don't try to manipulate and cheat and go around the law. And she used to say, if you can't be a pine at the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub by the side of the rail. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the moon, be a star. It's not by size. I've gone to 4, 5 colleges and universities. And I appreciated greatly the opportunity that I had to go to each one. I did a bachelor's degree. I did a master's degree. I did a doctorate's degree. I did a postdoctoral study at the University of Illinois. I took classes at a class at Roosevelt University under an esteemed professor, Dr. Charles Hamilton. But none of those made me any different than who I am. And my first love, quite honestly, is the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, a liberal arts college that started with 7 students. I and 6 of my brothers and sisters, all of us went there. When I went partially on credit because when I first got there, I didn't have enough money to pay the tuition. And so they allowed me to have some credit. But hey, be thankful for what you got and not always just be looking at what you can get. So I'm glad they exposed the scandal, and I hope that those who deserve punishment will be punished. And we don't need any scandals in our higher education system because we need every opportunity that we can foster for every young person in our country to obtain as much education as they can get. Carla, are you there?
And yes, and it's a great day to be on God's green earth, Congressman. And I want to make a quick comment and a quick question to you. I understood what Joe said, but see, the difference is you have integrity. You're going to do things the right way, because sooner or later when you do things the other way, it catches up with you on the other end. So it always makes amends somewhere down the road. But I truly understand it. Money don't have no integrity. It's going to do what a human being want to do with it. You could either do right or you could do wrong. That's the bottom line of that. And the main thing, look at Donald Duck, what he do with money and power. The question that I want to ask you is this. What options now do the House have to try to go over that veto? I looked at that man today. I had to put it on record, cut it off, and come back to see it. I hate that man to open up his mouth and have his henchmen in the background saying what they want to say. But again, what can the House do now to veto that, do with the veto on the bill? Let me get out there, Congressman.
Well, let me just say, here's what the unfortunate part of this is. We may end up without a budget the whole year. And we may get down to the end of the year. Money is about to run out. And we may have to resort to a continuing resolution, which means that any new things that we wanted to initiate. A friend of mine stopped me walking down the street the other morning, Dr. Burgess. He and I co-sponsored the Sickle Cell Treatment Act and got it passed. He's a Republican. And he asked me if I had seen 60 Minutes on Sunday, where they announced that they think they've almost got a cure for sickle cell anemia. And if we didn't have research money for the researchers to keep looking and probing and searching, I don't think we'd be at that point. So if we just hold things as they are, new things that people are learning and new information, especially with stem cell research, we wouldn't be able to use that technology to find answers to some of our health problems and issues. And so we can negotiate, and that's what will more than likely end up happening if we don't have a full budget. We end up negotiating a CR, a continuing resolution, so that we can keep the government open and we don't have to experience another shutdown. And I hope we don't get to that point, but the House has pretty much said that the president's budget is DOA, dead on arrival. And unless you can have the House, the Senate, and the president all hitting on the same tune, then we can't have a budget. And so that, I think, is one of the problems that it poses, and we'll have to work through it. Carla, are you there?
Yes, I am. And I just want to say once again, I salute you, and we are so honored. And I'm taking this as all of us. You being the congressman, you represent us very well. We have to understand we are all favored by God, bad, ugly, or whatnot. You are a good, excellent role model for us. I have been taking kids and talking with the young people, the future generation, that's the upcoming registered voters, talking about you, and they are all proud of you. You have really showed them the way to be a good servant. They are all going away to college. They all have gotten so wonderful marks because they want to be like Danny Davis. And this is Miss Griffith from the South Side. And my district is the 3rd district. But you do an excellent job and continue to do what you do representing this city. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I tell you, my mother she would have just been delighted to hear any comments like that. And parenting is so important. And the last few weeks we've been talking a great deal. I have a meeting coming up Monday with the head of the Department of Children and Family Services for the state. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to them about is trying to see if there might not be some way to generate some money to help teach young parents how to do the best that they can with their children. There's a group called Parents as Teachers, and their philosophy is that the first teaching begins at home. And I am so proud of the teaching that my parents, my mother, and my father, and my grandmother, who lived with us part of that time, taught. And it is those values that I find helpful. And I just would feel good if we could have a way to make sure that some of our young parents who don't learn parenting skills, like my mother used to chastise us and she'd be laughing at the same time. What I'm really saying is she used to whip us and she'd be laughing. and we'd be crying. And she said, well, I'm only doing it because I love you. And of course we say, if you love me, that's an interesting way of showing it. But she would be doing what she felt she needed to do. And she said, I ain't just mad with you, but I want you to know that here's what you ought to do. Carla, are you there?
Yes, I am, Congressman. First of all, I just want to echo the same sentiments as the young lady that just got off the phone. God bless you. I wish we could multiply you many times over. And God bless your wife. And you know she has our prayers. But nevertheless, please, whatever has to be done, do not pass that budget that those cuts that he wants to make. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I just can't wait until the Mueller investigation finally just get rid of this man. He is just bad news for everyone. He's not going to go along with the Senate, nor is he going to go along with the House. He's going to have his way, and hopefully that we won't have to have the government shut down. But God bless you again, Congressman. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a while. You come to our prison ministry conventions every time that you're invited. The last time that we were at one, Tony Pratt-Winkle, Thomas Dart, and Barry Black was at that one, and we just love you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so very much, and I really appreciate that. My office is right across the hall from Representative Elijah Cummings' office. And so Elijah, of course, his committee on oversight and government reform have much of the responsibility for some of these investigations, and I know that they are going to do a great job, and they're raising the right issues in that committee. My committee, the main thing I think we will end up asking for is the president's income tax returns. And of course, there are some members who don't want to do that because they don't want people asking for their income tax returns. And I think the president is different. We've had precedents in terms of that kind of information coming from a president or the president, and I think we need to continue it. Carla, are you there? Oh, okay, let me just mention some of these other cuts. The president's budget includes $845 billion in cuts to Medicare over 10 years, $25 billion in cuts to Social Security, and $5.8 billion in cuts to children's health insurance program. You know, all of those are cuts to people who are the most vulnerable in our society. I believe, and I've believed it for a long time, that you can evaluate the how well a society is functioning by how it treats its elderly, how it treats its young, and how it treats those who have difficulty caring for themselves. We have a lot of money in this country, but we also have a lot of poverty. The National Center for Children say that 41% of America's children are poor or near poor. And so if children grow up in poverty, oftentimes they will never experience the potential that they have to become contributing in a real way members of society. Poverty bogs you down. it prevents you from realizing the potential to be as creative as you can be. So we'll talk about this some more. We're going to have lots of time to talk about it. But also, we've got an election coming up in Chicago, and you've got some great choices, and you've got some great people that you can end up voting for. And so make sure that you go out and vote for one of these candidates. And if you don't vote for one of the candidates, vote for yourself. I mean, vote for yourself. Let's make Chicago the kind of city that all of us are proud to live in. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.